Okay, I call to order of the select board meeting of Monday, May 16, 2022. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up warrants. I have the general fund warrant dated May 12, 2022, in the amount of $67,465.83. Nothing really popped out. I think there was some insurance on there, yeah, that was the biggest one, I think. Anybody wanna make a motion to approve this warrant?
So moved. I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I have the industrial park warrant for Green Mountain Power dated May 16, 2022. It is for the sewage pump, the sign light, and the road lights. Total amount $717.64. Anybody wanna make a motion to approve this warrant?
So moved. Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, infrastructure development warrant in the amount of, structure development warrant dated May 16, 2022, in the amount of $346,346.15. So we have a couple different items on here. We have a Ruggiano invoice for $4,575, DW invoice for $339,459.85. Peterson Consulting for $1,900, and Fitzgerald Environmental Associates for $411.30. Anybody wanna make a motion to approve this warrant?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Any further discussion?
Just wanna point out, it's all town hall cost center as well.
Okay, perfect. One thing, Carrie, so is this gonna be like almost, well, pretty close to the final invoice?
It is close.
For them.
Maddie's gonna give us an update on the
Okay.
budget, so you'll know where
Okay.
we are total
Perfect.
versus the bond, but
Okay.
yeah, we are getting close, cause we, are substantially done with, construction right now, like the construction trailers getting ready to leave, if it's not gone already today, and, yep, getting to the end.
Okay, all in favor? Oh, sorry, good.
No, we're good.
All in
Clear my
favor?
throat.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is the stormwater utility warrant, dated May 16, 2022, in the amount of $3,153.50. I'm guessing this is for the stuff in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, I was gonna ask what those first two were for.
NRPC,
Yeah.
that's a regional, Emily's on here too, and she can get into the greater detail, but it's a regional stormwater education program. It's a required part of the stormwater, permit that we do that, contribute to a stormwater education program.
To, like in a school or to?
No, with
just general
regional,
public?
Northwest Regional Planning Commission kinda leads this, and we contribute, the city contributes, and I don't know if any other
We used to, before the utility, this used to come out of general funds, and when those costs, we shifted to the utility.
It's $5,000 a year.
Gotcha, okay.
Thank you. Okay, anybody wanna make a motion to approve this warrant?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Brian has the payroll.
I do, huh? Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you got two payroll warrants, one dated May 6th, 2022. This one's in the amount of $23,184.32. The one for May 13th, 2022 is for $22,611.79. So both look like the fairly standard payroll, so to speak. I make a motion that we pass these payroll warrants as presented.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I believe that's all of the warrants we have. Moving on to the minutes, we have the minutes of Monday, May 2nd in front of us. Anybody have any edits? first, changes, so, nothing said, so moving, anybody wanna make a motion?
I'll make a
To approve
motion
them.
that we accept the minutes.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. Would anybody in the audience on Zoom like to make a public comment? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna move on to the Liquor Control Board. Would somebody wanna make a motion to recess the select board meeting and make another motion to open as the Liquor Control Board?
I move we recess the select board meeting and reconvene as a liquor control board.
Yep, second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we have a list. So we gotta make a motion for each individual one. Is Anna on tonight?
Anna's on.
Okay.
Any comments, Anna, about
Don't see
any
her.
of the applicants on the liquor control? Oh, wait a minute, she
Not
gone?
there.
She was there a minute
Oh,
ago.
okay.
She
Well,
usually lets me
She would've
know-
said something, right?
She lets me know if there's
Yeah.
anything in advance. I did not hear of any issues with these. You can name the three.
Yep, so, well, they're all the same, so I'll just list them all. So what we have here is the first class, they're all for the VFW. First class license, third class license, and an outside consumption permit. If anybody wants to make a motion to approve these liquor licenses.
I'll make the motion. We approve it.
I'll sign that, Jerry.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, somebody wanna make a motion to reconvene, or
Yeah, reconvene is right, or just,
Okay, close the liquor control board and then reconvene as a select board.
Yep, so moved.
Yep, second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Old Town Hall. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the Old Town Hall future.
Sounds like a country song, the old
Town
town.
Hall.
yeah, there you go. Well, we talked briefly about it, didn't know if you wanted to, like I said in the notes, have a meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Have an early
okay.
meeting.
Yeah.
We are gonna be hopefully vacating this building within the next, say, 3 months, one way or the other. And I think the community wants to comment on that, whether it's at a special meeting or one of our meetings.
So, okay, so you're gonna have like a public hearing on it or something?
We don't have to have a hearing, but to have some public
Input?
meetings for that purpose alone, to allow people to come in and talk about it.
Are you looking for input from the board also?
Yep, yes.
Does anybody have any ideas, suggestions, anybody thought about it?
I'd say whatever Corey and Gary think would elicit the most comments possible, you know, make it easy, get the most information. I mean, we've talked about it here and there over the last year, there's, I don't, you know, it's pretty wide open, right?
Right.
We have any set thoughts?
Yeah,
I would definitely love to hear what people's thoughts are.
I would really like to see somebody from the community approach us and wanna buy it, you know, actually use it for something and make it, keep it a nice, because it's a fairly decent building now, you know. It's actually the only historical building in the bay, right? I believe.
Other than the Bay Park itself, right?
Right.
And then there's some talk about the old antique store, of course, that's been around for a while. Yeah, so it is on the historic registry. I mean, we were approached informally by a developer who likes to do that kind of work and apply for grants, which could make the project a little more attractive. But we've not engaged with anyone on that professionally, it's all been pretty informal to date. One, we needed to know when we would be vacating, and now we know that roughly, so might be a good idea to have.
Yeah, I guess that we need to start talking about it.
So
Yeah.
you need to put it out there, so if somebody is interested.
That's right,
Yeah.
they'll know that they can approach us.
Yeah.
Yep,
So-
and maybe you have once a month for the next 3 months, hey, we're gonna talk about this, send you guys comments, send me comments.
If that's the most effective
Emails.
way, I think, you know, whatever's just gonna get the easiest for folks,
So
that's
the
all.
first round, we're gonna kinda decide what we're gonna do, if we're gonna put it up for sale, or if we're gonna keep it, repurpose it for ourselves, or, like, I don't really see a purpose for ourselves, I mean, unless,
Yeah, that's why.
I guess we'll get to the
you guys
first
the big
step, and then
bucks.
if whatever direction we decide to go in, then we can work
Yeah,
on that also, right?
I would agree with you, Jonathan. I think if we, unless we hear some compelling, wonderful ideas, something other than us selling it to a worthy developer, I'd say I believe our town, from what I understand, our town citizenry would like to sell it to a good developer and not have the liability going forward, I guess.
Okay. I
So-
guess we can set that up and.
Do you wanna have it at a regular select board meeting, or start the meeting early at 6 so that you can have 30 to 60 minutes just for that?
Yeah.
I think,
so.
okay, that's cool.
I like-
Is 6 to 6:30 enough, or do you, I don't,
Well,
do you think, like,
Or is it too much? We don't, yeah.
has
no,
anybody
It's hard-
like
hard to know.
put feelers out to, like,
No,
do you
but
think?
we can market it and, like, on Facebook and social media and let people know we're having it.
I would think that would get somebody.
We've got about
Mhm.
800 emails in the town now, we can send an email out for the meeting and just solicit.
I'm just, what, if we have like 20
Yeah.
people show up, we're gonna kill that 30 minutes, like, that's a minute.
It's true. We can start early. I mean, when we started this process and we were talking about, building a new town hall, there was people then that were asking what we were gonna do with this town hall. So I think if you let the general public know in a number of different ways, we're having this discussion again, this is the
Okay.
time.
So I have a question, general question, like, if someone was gonna repurpose this for something, how does zoning come into that? Like, what's it, is zoned as a commercial building, I'm assuming?
I don't know what it's zoned at, actually, I haven't looked at that in
Isn't
a
this
long
a-
time.
isn't
Assume
this
commercial
a
residential.
It's a government-
Village center though?
Yeah.
Isn't this the village center?
It is in the village center, and this is called a government building, but I don't know what else it's zoned for right now.
Well, I was
You
just
could
wondering
probably
if-
do, housing,
Yeah, that's what I was, like, if someone wanted to turn it into
senior housing.
senior, that's,
or-
yeah, just senior, I mean, how to,
Or a
Yeah, I don't know what
daycare or
zone it
something.
is.
We can ask our zoning, we have people for
I think we've had
that.
more septic issues than zoning issues
Yeah.
I know, yeah,
for housing.
I just don't know what's in that zoning definition for allowable uses off the top of my head. I don't know that.
Those will be changing too, because state just changed zoning some zoning laws and designated village centers and downtowns and whatnot. The governor signs it next week or two. We'll be able to get more.
But that's a question, that's
Density.
timely, we should ask Megan ahead of time.
it would be good if that
Yeah.
people knew what the building could be used for without going through a million
Yeah, that's true.
hurdles to
Mhm.
try to change something.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that without, because there's some, once you go to a certain building, then you're gonna have to require state permits and everything, so I don't know. Like, I guess we could give them
Just general,
Yeah,
for sure,
general.
just general.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
We're-
just
We're mixed residential commercial,
mixed residential commercial. Perfect.
so they could basically turn it into housing or office building.
cool. So when will you,
When do you wanna have that
Do you think, like,
5:30 meeting?
4 weeks out, you think? I mean,
Yeah,
is that
maybe,
I
give
I
us
would
time.
say,
How
yeah.
soon you wanna
Time
do
for
it?
what? Why don't we just do it in the next meeting?
Well, because you gotta give time to get the word out.
Well, it's gonna do it on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah,
it
but
is
not
that goes out
everybody-
like tomorrow.
We can do it on June 6th if you want, doesn't matter, it's just that I was thinking time, because we get it in the messenger, but we could probably get it in the messenger next week. I don't know if we know anybody in
The
the
messenger guy's here. ain't
I
he?
know, I'm kidding. Yeah, Josh is here. So, yeah, if you wanna do it on June 6th, and we
I'd like to
can-
push it out a little, I just wanna I don't wanna go too far where people forget about it, but I'd like to, make sure it has enough time out there for people to see it, nobody really
The
misses
thing I
it.
worry about the June timeframe is like one of the schools have their graduations and all of their stuff. If you don't wanna book a night, people are
Is
just
it,
gonna
do
be
you know
there.
if it's on June 6th, Corey?
I
Well,
don't know
no.
what
I
that-
feel like they're usually mid-June. but
They are, and we were trying to
just
do
type in
this
Newport on
on
here.
a Monday night, an hour before a select board meeting, so Monday nights are not too crazy with events like that, I don't think. So the question is, do you wanna do it June 6th, which is our first meeting, or June 22nd, is the second meeting because June 20th is a holiday. It's the 19th, Juneteenth,
I would
the new one.
prefer pushing it out myself.
I think so.
That's.
So Wednesday, June 22nd,
I think so, yeah.
and that would be after graduation.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah, it should be after graduation.
Cause
Yeah,
it's
it's
now a
fine,
Wednesday
it's
after graduation.
Plus Corey can mount a more vigorous marketing campaign by then.
You probably have it sold, but
Careful
Well-
how you explain that, he'll be asking for a
Yeah.
budget,
You were thinking, if you were gonna go door to door on this one, Cory?
door to door.
Door to door,
Yeah.
to be able to hit everybody, but.
Start now.
Be difficult to do in a month.
June
What's
22nd.
20, that one, I wouldn't be able to be there on that one, but I just have a work thing I have to be at. If that changes it for anybody. we can watch
22nd?
it after.
I don't think it'll be the
Yeah.
only one we have though, so.
Yeah, as long as there's four of
couldn't
us.
sell it to the city,
It's not the
because
end of
they
the
want
world.
some other tax base, and they could buy it right in the middle of town.
That's thinking outside the box.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do these
Call
days.
Dominic tomorrow.
Could be
All right,
like
so-
his lakeside, office.
I'll gladly give him mine. Wednesday, June 22nd at 5:30 then for right now?
Are you gonna be at the meeting at all that night? You're out.
We have our company, it's our 40th anniversary. They get to show a museum, so I'll definitely be expected to be there.
Yeah, I imagine.
That's fine, if that works
I mean,
best for
it's-
everybody else.
You can join us on Zoom.
Just, yeah. Well, do you really wanna, like, we're gonna have a couple meetings on this
Yeah.
If we have a
anyways.
couple, yeah, that's fine.
This is just a direct, to get us started,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep, that's fine. That's fine.
we won't make any decisions.
That's fine. Yeah, that's
Okay.
He'll miss us.
Uh,
All right, we can do
can
that.
live
So
stream
that-
it right there.
Huh? So that's, so, not talking about that, now we're gonna be moving forward to the town manager's report.
We are. So the first thing we have on here is paving bids. So Alan made you copies. We put it out to a number of people and only got 2 bids.
Only two?
But Pike and Whitcomb. Sorry. Those are the good 2.
Well, big guys.
You're gonna see on here, was there enough?
Yeah, they're together.
Okay.
I think, yeah, you're good, you're good. One of each.
I know Bretton's on from Pikes. Wickham's not on, so.
There he is, Breton is on. Can you hear us okay? Okay,
So
all
I
right.
break up you probably saw the proposal, I think I put it had it in the packet. But I break it up into a milling and a resurfacing. And then there's an option for a quarter mile more on the French shell to be done, and that was gonna be reclaimed. If you look at both the bids, Pike is, their tonnage price for laying down the asphalt is $93. Wickham's is $97.55. Their milling is both the same price per square yard. The reclaim price, Wickham's is a little lower, but their paving is more money, so it ends up being more than Pike's anyways. If you look at the totals, don't let the totals screw you up a little bit, because Wickham's came in at a lower cost overall. But I found a discrepancy. If you look under Lord Road, Wickham's had only 1,300 tons, where on Pikes, they're coming in at 2,610 tons. And when I did my math on that road, it came in around 2,619. So, somewheres along the line, I think they might have screwed up on their measurement on Lord Road. And with that being said, that's a difference of $127,790, which puts their overall cost even more than Pikes. So my recommendation is that Pikes wins the bid.
Just looking at this, Alan, so the roughly 650 needs to be added with what's on the second page, correct? The 113, and then taking into account
Exactly.
discrepancy you mentioned as well, right? Okay.
So unfortunately, with the prices going up this year, I've told the companies that I've reached out to that these are what we wanted to get done, but obviously with the budget, we're not gonna be able to, so I've been evaluating the roads, and so now I'll have to go back through and kinda à la carte them and pick and choose the worst ones to fit into our budget. So with petroleum prices, just to give you an idea, last year we paid $67 a ton laid.
What'd you say, it was 90?
It's almost 50%.
93 is
93?
Pikes, 93. So,
That's quite
yeah. And keep in mind, always the small print on these is, if crude oil goes up, the tack and the liquid tar that's used in the asphalt will go up at the end of a job.
Now, like on some of these roads and streets, you'd be doing the whole length of it?
Yes.
In which section, which quarter mile of French Hill? Like the face
So
or?
no, unfortunately, we'd probably take off right from past Fred Lake and take it down over the hill. That doesn't see a lot of sun, it's got a lot of cracks and humps.
So
My
it
intention
come
was
down
to have that section done last year, and then I was gonna go from right where Anna lives, I was gonna go back a quarter mile, that would've got us to the top of the hill this year. But, we didn't have the money last year. And if you notice that in between section, we replaced those culverts 2 years ago, and I reclaimed that road and redid it. And knock on wood, that's held up great. And I think that's the problem with French Hill is, it's got a lot of ledge, and through the years, you just keep putting a Band-Aid on it. And the more Band-Aids, it's still gonna crack, so by reclaiming it and mixing that down in.
And when you have to, excuse me, for all the terminology. Reclaim means what exactly?
Reclaim is, picture like a big rototiller tilling up the asphalt,
Just
mixing it
start
right into
over.
the stone. So up there on the road, it was probably 14, 15 inches deep. I basically ground that asphalt up, mixed it with the dirt underneath, they regraded it, packed it, and then we repaved with a base and top layer.
Gotcha, okay.
But we had raised the dip up on that road. I used the millings from the part of the roads we milled. I raised that road about 4 feet in the dip.
Way down in the bottom?
Right, well, where Alvagel lives, that road got raised about 4 feet to put more coverage over those culverts. And then we did a layer of gravel, rolled it, paved it, and as you can see, it helped. So my goal was to try doing a quarter mile each year if we could. And then when it was time to pave, then we paved that whole road, and then the road itself
Gotcha,
would
okay.
be a lot better.
That makes sense to me why you're doing that.
So milling is just grinding off a layer, reclaiming is taking it right down to the dirt, just so you know.
Starting over.
Yep.
Okay.
Which you probably would have needed, cause when I was a kid, it was a logging road, about this freaking wide, right up to it.
What's our paving budget?
It's $475 this year,
So,
but I do have a little bit of money left over that I've talked to Carrie and Anna, we'll talk to Anna, and she'll get that to kick over onto this year's paving.
so we're still well short of.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Big time.
Yeah, we're not gonna be doing $650,000 worth of paving this year. So the decision tonight is who to go with, and then we'll revise the bid to fit our budget.
Yes,
So you're recommending Pikes.
yes.
Does that base solely on price, or is there any difference in quality of the work, or?
We've had good luck with pipes the last few years. Wickham's is a very competent company. I'd reached out to Ireland's also. There's just so much federal money and state money out there this year that a lot of companies are, they're booked.
Yep.
And I think they're doing these towns and
We're
I
not
feel
on top-
confident
We're
with
not on
Pikes.
top of the list, right?
That's correct.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that, you'd think with that amount of buying power we would be, but
No, nothing compared to some of
We're
these.
just a small fish in the sea.
Well, I make the motion to go with Pike, and that's what anyone thinks is the best price. And we can get a few extra feet out of it.
Anybody got a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? I just got one question. Like I guess I can see the lower road discrepancy, but like none of the tonnages match up.
They're all off by a little bit, but
So what do we do when we put this out for quote? We say, here's the map, here's the list of the roads, go.
they meet
go.
with me, I drive them, I show them the starting and finishing points.
And
They
then
use-
they go back and.
They go back
do
and measure.
Measure.
Yeah. I mean, I give them, like you saw this list, this is what we had for lengths and widths.
Mm-hmm.
But then I put paint marks on the road, I drive with them, show them the starting and stops, and then they measure themselves.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
We can give these back.
I'll be in touch, Breton. Thank you.
Put it right.
So, Alan,
thank you.
just quick, so I'm looking at like the list you had with all the roads, so what's the process to figure out which ones we're going to do with the budget we have?
I'll go back through them, and whichever ones are cracking or,
Based on condition.
exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
fair enough.
I can tell you like Pearl Ave and Pearl extensions, those are dead-end streets, they're not a lot of traffic, so those would probably get pushed off,
Okay.
just for an example.
They're not that bad either, are they?
They're not too bad, no.
You
Plus
go
we're-
around and fill in and cracks with tire and stuff some years or not?
We don't, a few towns had talked about trying to partner up and getting a crack filling machine, but it's one of those tough machines. I've done it, a lot of towns haven't, so you really gotta stay on top of it.
The
You know,
state, he does it quite a bit on the interstate and stuff, doesn't it?
They do, yeah.
I don't know if it
What would be
helps.
nice is if after we milled, if we could go through and crack fill before they paved, and then we'd even have a better fighting chance, but a lot of our roads have been just shimmed and paved every single year.
Right.
And, I mean, when you
Right.
can't get a floor saw through the layer of asphalt,
Right.
the roads are just way too thick, we gotta start tearing them down and getting back to a good base,
With the killing thing.
yeah. So, all right, thank you.
All right, so the next update is from the sheriff, Roger Langevin. He's online on our Zoom platform. He's gonna provide an update on what's been happening lately. Take it away, Sheriff Langevin.
All right, hey, good evening to the board. Our office is in pretty good shape. We're losing a deputy to Morrisville Police Department, but we were fortunate to pick one up from Chittenden County about a month ago, and that deputy's gone through a little FTO training, make sure he's ready to go, and he's up and running and he's on the road, so that should be seamless. As we lose one, we picked up one. We have a couple of good candidates in the pipeline. They got polygraphs coming up this coming week, so hopefully those go well. We're heading into our busy season. We had a all office meeting probably about 2-3 weeks ago, and we went through what our schedule might look like through the summer. For example, we're the only police agency at the home show this past weekend. And it was all filled by the older guys in the department. But it went well. We had a lot of questions that were answered from the public. Addressed a couple of concerns that people might have. And we also talked to a couple of young people who might be potential candidates on the road. Our equipment's in good shape. You know, we got cruisers. We've purchased 8 since I've been the sheriff in the last few years. But getting back to the busy summer, starting with the home show, we got graduations coming up, June Dairy Days, of course, the Bay Day in July, Franklin County Field Days in August. We also signed a contract. I haven't been signing additional contracts, but we signed a Lake Carmi Patrols State Park contract, which we've signed every year. But this year I put in a clause that when staffing permits, as I told you in the last meeting, our biggest concern is make sure we cover our patrols that we're contracted with. And we continue to do that. If we're fortunate enough to pick up some additional deputies down the road, I'd like to see us get back into Governor's Highway Safety. That's additional road patrols in multiple towns throughout Franklin County, as well as maybe Stone Garden with our federal partners who are pretty thin right now too, having sent them a number down to the southern border. So we're in good shape with that. As you can see on the calls that I sent to Carrie and Corey earlier today, you know, the bulk of our work has been traffic stops. Being visible is number one for us. We had 328 last month. Areas of concern for us right now, you know, we get a lot of calls from Walmart, a lot of thefts, a lot of, you know, can you come give these people a trespass notice, that type of stuff. We spend a lot of time up there on that north end of town. And also Lapans Bay. We're trying to address issues there. We've tried working things out. It's not working. We're going to have a meeting soon with the state's attorney and see what we can do to step things up there to calm that. We can't be going down the number of times we're going down currently to address quality of life issues. Motor vehicle complaints that I've gotten mostly by phone. You know, I've been on the McQuam Shore Road, Jewett Street, most recently, Lapans Bay, again with, you know, vehicles racing, engines racing, that type of thing, burnouts. Also, we had a boating incident that I just want to make you guys aware of. That incident is about a particular boat that fishes at night. I think they call it bow fishing. Very bright lights on the front and on the back of the boat, and it lights up people's camps and houses on the lake. I've taken a couple of complaints about that. Is there something we can do? I know when I was a homeowner on the lake, that was pretty disturbing. I've talked to a game warden. There's nothing illegal about it, although it's pretty uncomfortable, and they too field a lot of complaints about it. I also talked with Jay Sweeney, who's on the Fish and Wildlife Board, and basically would take a petition to the board to try to curtail that fishing at night where it's disruptive to people's houses. That light is so bright, like in my house when I was down on the lake, I have 2 sliding glass doors and I'll have this, just the screens shut at night and stuff. And that boat, when it comes around, and one time it was 3:30 in the morning, it just lights up the whole house. And if it doesn't wake you up, but if you have a dog, you get woken up. I had a neighbor call me also at 3:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, did you see what the hell is that outside?" And it was a boat fishing. So we took an incident on that, just so that we can start documenting how many calls we get on that. And like I said, I've taken a few, and I've witnessed a few as well. And another one that we had that was interesting was a bomb threat at Walmart. That turned out to be, it appears to be someone who was looking to steal a large screen TV. He was stopped by loss prevention, was escorted out of the store, and 20 minutes later, they get a bomb threat. Nothing was located. The store was emptied, and everybody eventually returned back to work. So that was pretty much in a nutshell for us last night, or last month, I should say. I don't know if I can answer any questions for anybody or.
Now, you guys are the ones that, with the shooting there last weekend, was it?
Yeah, you know, the beauty of having somebody in the town 24/7. Our deputies learned, you know, that it was in Highgate, possibly coming down towards St. Albans, and 207 was the route. And when they saw the deputies, they turned into the mouth of the driveway at Handy Toyota. One of our level 2 deputies is a EMT certified individual, and actually got the individual out of the car onto the ground, stabilized his neck and his head prior to AmCare coming on scene, and also determined that the individual had a small bullet hole in the back of his head. He also had a shot in the right shoulder, back side of the shoulder, which was clearly visible. The shoulder was, but the head not so much. Yeah, so it was nice having an EMT on board like that. And we get a number of level 2 deputies who are either paramedics or EMTs and or firefighters. So it's nice when you can cross over a little bit on scene until AmCare could get there.
That's too bad that things are getting to that point. Could be some innocent people get hurt with gunfire all over the place.
Yep. Yep.
Very scary.
Yeah, we're all concerned, Jack, with that. Myself, Chief Lamoth, and Lieutenant Commander Parton at the State Police. Yeah, we discussed it. You know, first you see the guns, and then you start getting shootings after you see the guns for a while. So.
Some other questions?
No, I'm good.
All right.
Thank you,
Rob.
Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
The next item is a town hall update, so we're gonna do this kind of in 2 parts. The first part is Natty, our project manager, is gonna go over the budget. And then we're gonna transition into the RO treatment options that we discussed and that you have in your packet. So, I'll let you go first, Natty.
Great, thanks, Carrie, and hello, everyone. So a general construction update is that interior work is extremely close to completion. The punch list walk with the architect and engineer took place last Wednesday. Generally, the work is really excellent, and almost all the items noted by the architect are things like paint touch-ups, cleaning adhesive off of tile, and minor items such as adding toe kicks and finishing up some door hardware. The engineers list hasn't come in yet, but they briefed us that they're also very impressed with the work and there are no major items. The furniture install by X Terrace is happening late next week. And then the rest of the move obviously will be scheduled once we have a final move-in date established. As you've probably noticed driving by, the site work is shaping up really well. The topsoil is in place and grass should be coming up soon. The paving contract is in hand and we're aiming to do that at the end of May. And tomorrow morning, I'll be on site with Sam Reggiano for the site punch walk. Unfortunately, the troublesome radius that goes at the curtain wall of the main entrance is still tracking for shipment on July 1st. So we're hopeful that we won't get any more delays there, but as you guys know, that's been a troublesome item. For the budget update, the current pay application reflects 92% completion, and a large chunk of that outstanding amount is the release of retainage. So it's not necessarily, more work that you'll see happening. It's just the release of that 10% retainage. Owner costs items that took place in the past month have been the top coat paving costs, Reggiano design costs for the disposal field, which is one of the RO treatment options, costs for Fitzgerald Environmental's wetland delineation, and we apply DEW's change order number 5 to the owner contingency as well. Any questions either on work progress or budget?
How much are we, where are we at money-wise?
For owner contingency, we have 86,466 left in the bank. But as we'll discuss in Carrie's portion, a large portion of that is spoken for, or will be spoken for soon, unfortunately.
Are you asking how much we spent today on the whole project?
Or I'm just trying to find out, are we gonna have enough left for this water business.
That was my one question.
Yeah. So it kind of depends on which route we choose to take here.
The question was asked earlier about how many large bills would we have left. I don't think we have too many since we're at 3.9 out of a 4.5. Can't read that really small number in there, but $1 million. That's in that spreadsheet in your package. But to answer, you answered Jack's question, which was 86.5, basically.
Any other questions? And I hope you guys received my photo updates that I did after our last town hall update. If you'd like, I'd be happy to do that again. I'll be out there tomorrow morning, like I said.
Yeah, I'll take it. Please do.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. The lobby, getting the lobby.
Great. Yep, I'll do that.
All right.
That's all I have.
Okay, so I passed around the RO, or reverse osmosis effluent system, which is basically, we decided, we brought to you as a committee at the one of the last meetings in, well, beginning of April, actually, that we were having an issue with this. We needed an RO. That then the question was, how do we take care of the effluent or the waste that an RO produces? At that time, we had recommended a waste disposal field that we thought would be fairly simple in design and hopefully cost. And as it evolved, it became very quickly obvious that it wasn't simple, it wasn't inexpensive, and we might have to look at other options. So as a committee, we started looking at those options probably 3 weeks ago, if not longer, to find out what our options were. I think most importantly, I tried to summarize it in my notes that, you know, Emily did a lot of work with the state trying to find out what we had permitted and what we need to get permits for, because there's two driving forces here. We want to get in the building in a timely manner, and we want it to be a cost-efficient method. You know, we don't want to break the bank doing so. So she had circled back to the state to say, well, if we use an above-ground tank, would a permit really be required? Because permits are problematic. It sounds so simple, but we all know they're problematic in timing, cost, and timing initially. They cost a little bit of money, but more than that, they cost us time and push the move-in date even further.
There's unknowns with that too.
There was a lot of unknowns, so Emily had circled back to them, and to their credit, that Laura looked at it and said, well, maybe you don't, and she put it in writing. She sent Emily a response that said, you don't need a permit for that above-ground tank option. So in front of you, what you have are 3 options. The first option came in at the price we estimated, that DEW helped us estimate, at $103,652.
But that don't include the RO.
None of the options include that's already been,
So we're getting an RO, right?
yes,
Has it been ordered?
yes, it has.
When's the delivery?
They won't give us an exact delivery. The ship date was a week or 2 from now, if I remember correctly. It was a 5-week lead time, they said. We ordered it shortly after we were given permission to do so. Should be in this month, but until I actually see it there, or they've confirmed it's been received, I can't say. Yes, an RO has been ordered. That was the thing, that was the item with the longest lead time, so that's why we pushed for that. And we need one with all 3 of these options. So option 1, and so I'm sorry, before we go to the weeds there with options, did I miss anything critical here, Emily, that you want to bring up? Emily?
No, that seems accurate. I think that's a good summary.
So how come we got an engineering firm, right?
We have an engineering firm, we
And
got
how
an
come
engineering.
Emily's doing all the work on the permits? I would think our engineering firm should have that all nailed down. I mean, you're paying
right.
them guys boatload of money.
We didn't
Why
with
does she
this,
have to do it?
because when we put this out to bid in late 2021, in an effort to save money, that we went with a lower bid engineer who a la carted it, so it was largely time and materials. So the first part of it was a set scope, did that work, he created the site plan for us, engineered everything outside of the building, right? But it didn't include permits. Didn't include all the permits, so at this point,
We got what we paid for.
yes. And if we hired him, it would be time and materials, mostly time, of course. Emily is offered to do this because she's already on our payroll. And she has a pretty good rapport with almost all the agencies we're talking about, so that helps, they know that we're serious about wanting to do better with their water quality.
This is an additional permit that would be needed for the RO project.
No, we don't need any permits for, additional permits for the RO, or the tank, above ground
Well,
tank,
But you did need them if you went with the in-ground disposal. Because of
yes,
that.
With the RO project.
yes.
Initially, we were told that we would need permits for in-ground disposal, but they corrected that to say that we do not.
For above ground.
Well, for either, we
Both, right.
think that the above ground would be easier for the town to maintain than the in-ground due to wetland impacts and other issues. So the above ground ends up being easier in the long run, in our estimation.
That's a question kind of a little bit off, but you have to excuse my ignorance on the water systems and everything. That's not my thing, but would it have worked instead of doing, and as I'm looking at these costs in addition to the RO system? I spoke with a resident who used to work up at the border, customs and border. They mentioned they had a similar issue, and instead of doing an RO, they ended up basically just shipping water in for a couple days or whatever.
Mhm.
Would that have been possible in this situation, or is that completely off? I mean, I'm just looking, because what would we do for the RO? Would that be 40,000 or something like that? 60 and then 100, or it's gonna be 100 with almost whatever.
The
option
RO
you do.
that we estimated was 60 with all of the other systems. The RO machine itself, I thought was like
Correct.
$17,000.
When we were talking at the other meeting a few weeks ago, the number that was batted around was 60,000.
60, that was everything.
Not
Yeah.
this,
That was for.
that was everything.
Correct, so that's not 60 on top of this, it's
Gotcha.
just, there's some overlap.
Some of that 60 is
Yes,
turned
yes.
into this. Yeah.
So we were calculating we needed about 80 gallons a day, I thought it was. No one suggested actually bringing in bulk amounts of water. Not sure where
Of
we.
course, I didn't hear about that until after our meeting.
Yeah, no, I
because
hear you.
Brought it up then, but.
The 80 gallons a day is just for the RO effluent, it's not for our actual usage.
So I think our usage is actually double that. At least, I would have to run the numbers again, but I think that was the quote the engineer gave to us for what our usage would be. For being like all the conference rooms and offices, there's a state equation that you have to apply to, you have to adhere to. And so we would have to provide a tank, in-ground tank, to supply a certain demand. And I don't know the legalities behind that, Brian, but it would be a large tank. And I think then it might also trigger the in-ground, maybe not, I might be misquoting, it might trigger a permit there. I'm not positive. And I think you would still have to prove, you might have to still chlorinate and do things like that because it's sitting in a tank. You would have to provide some treatment, probably not the RO level of treatment, but
right.
some treatment.
Chlorine disperses that for some reason.
Well, we wouldn't have any of the effluent though, right? So-
Right.
Correct.
That's correct, yep. So what we were proposing as option 2, that you have an estimate for, just to close it out for anyone who's listening, or to provide framework. We're suggesting an above-ground tank that would be located right behind our dumpster enclosure, that's screened currently. Would be insulated, have, a heating element or heat tape on it. So the estimate you have here is DEW providing that oversight, using the existing subs we have, that did electrical and did the plumbing. So this would be a change order, but it wouldn't be an entirely new contract, just please can you do this extra work? And that total comes in at around 36,000 or 36,700.
So what's it, is this hydro excavating, is that boring?
No, it's, we've called it so many other things.
It's called potholing or hydro excavating. Like you
Potholing.
suck the material out of the ground, so it's not an invasive form of excavation, so it won't harm the foundation material.
Cause there's a lot of things over there in the ground.
Yeah.
There's a
Except
lot
good
of,
water, none of that.
except clean water.
Yeah,
That's absolutely
everything under the
correct.
sun over there for
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, it would be great if we hit that, but it probably wouldn't hit that. And option 3 that we put on
That's
here.
gonna ask
Go
every,
ahead.
sorry, so with option 2, there's also then, we have to empty the tank. every so
Yes,
often, right?
yes.
And that's, any idea what that type of thing costs?
Alan did get a price for that. It'd be like once a week, maybe, I don't know. I don't remember the sewer charge though, so.
It's 2.5 cents a gallon at the city sewer to get rid of. The tank size is big enough to hold 14 days worth. So we're looking at pumping every 2 weeks. So I think it averages out between $20 and $30 every 2 weeks.
So is that like a septic truck that comes and empties it?
We would just use one of our old brine tanks on a trailer, come in, pump it, back right up to the sewer plant with the, open the valve and let it go. We've given all the specs of the state of the water to the city already. They checked with the state engineer and he said it was fine to put in with the sewer.
Could you put it in a manure pit? Some guy's pit wasn't very thick, or too thick.
Probably not. They probably wouldn't want the salt on their fields. But
We might potentially be able to work with other municipalities though that use chloride
Brine.
on their roads or
Yeah.
V-Trans with their brine tanks.
We just, we don't have a price for that. We're hoping we could either sell it as a commodity or have somebody take it for nothing, right? Got this supply.
What would the salt concentration be in that water? Any idea?
We do have an idea. Do you remember what it?
it's
1,600 parts per million, give or take.
It wasn't very high, that's correct. Just too high to drink.
You
Too high to
couldn't use
put
it though
through.
to melt it, like open your valve on your truck and drive up toward the city and on an icy day and.
it'd probably make it a little icier because it doesn't have enough
Yeah.
salt.
It's not that salty. We did
Well, it's
consider
not
that.
salty enough where they aren't putting a heating element in.
Yeah,
So-
they,
I mean, they are, so it would,
Right.
so it's not that salty
Correct.
because they suspected the water would freeze.
So what if we looked around and found an old milk tank? Nice silver outside coating, all insulated, put it out there, looked really nice, 2,000 or 3,000 gallons. I mean, you're talking 7,000 here for a tank with insulation all on it.
Could be price of bulk tank right there?
well, the whole other thing is being,
But mean,
I think we're
ones
gonna
don't
put these in the
cool.
ground, so they don't,
Ones that leak
it doesn't,
freon,
it's
yeah.
less apt to freeze, like the piping's gotta be all
Underground.
freeze protection.
Correct.
If it's not under the ground deep enough, like, you can't just bring a tanker in and set it there. I know it'd be nice, but your stuff would freeze, you're not gonna manipulate the valves for a week, like stuff would be froze.
No, but I mean, if you're not going underground with the water lines anyway? for
Yeah, I
the- where
believe
the
so.
effluent-
We are
Yeah,
for them,
there's a
and
drawing in here that shows
Yep.
that detail.
Right,
There's a heat trace on the line for the section that's above ground. It's not salty enough to not freeze above
right,
ground.
but I mean, you're just heat taping it though, right? You put the heat.
The tank has a heat tracer system on it, So it's a little more sophisticated than just standard heat tape, but the line itself essentially has
Same idea,
it's
but
heat tracer, heat tape built into it.
Like a barrel warmer.
Yeah, I know, but you gotta do the farmer fix here. We were spending a whole bunch of
I can tell you
money.
what the farmer.
Where would you put it, Jack? Then you have a big old tank sitting outside our beautiful new town hall.
Well, we don't wanna put it in the
Oh, you
wetland
put it
area.
in the back.
There's no back there, cause where we just had our wetland delineated, it covers almost all of that area from inside the building a little, frankly, to our property border on the lake side and on the north side. And then on the south
And the
side is our
remainder is
septic.
access.
And then on, well, the other side is parking lot. We really don't have
So they called all that wetland out in the back.
a great deal of it, yes. The lake
Up
side.
into the access road.
Yeah, yeah, they did. So that's why this was a concern of ours, and this solution or this option is within our safe area, goes in a screened area. You won't see it, it will function fairly easily, we're hoping, it won't. And it doesn't cost nearly what the previous option one, is estimated to cost.
So does this have an alarm system that's gonna notify somebody if it's too full?
Does this have a float alarm system?
I didn't really see it, didn't know.
I'd have to look at the spec on the control panel. It's a
Or-
pretty sophisticated
Sorry.
control panel.
You get them, you can get them like for sugar and it tells you how full your tank is and it calls your phone out.
My only concern is if, say, we go into regeneration on Monday night and the tank, are you gonna check it every day, or do we get a level, something that sends you a report, or
Mhm.
both of you a report every day that says the tank level's at 35%? You know, is that something we should think about getting, or?
Those aren't that
I think the
expensive.
RO tells you how many gallons it's producing a day, so, I mean, even though if the number is 80, the town hall might only use 40 gallons a day, is the idea, so, I mean, once we get a kind of a feel for how much water, the tank's gonna be almost a 1,200 gallon tank, so, you have,
I think that's something that we'll be able to feel out over time, where we'll.
Well, yeah,
need
we're gonna have
better
to-
I mean, even
evidence
that
of-
worst case scenario, say it's 80 gallons a day, that days it's, 800 gallons, we still got
I
room to
think to
go.
be safe, you ought to get like a 1,500 gallon. So you have a little wiggle room.
If you get much larger than this, I think the price goes up, and I don't think it would fit where we're trying to make it fit without changing our zoning permit and the site plan itself.
Well, then we'll have to pay for engineering again.
I don't see where, the difference between 1,000 and 15, it's just usually a little higher, not bigger.
Okay. I mean, we can ask if you don't mind seeing it above the screening.
I don't care.
I gotta look at it from my house.
You
I
didn't
do.
see it from your house.
Close your blinds. I mean, what do you care?
That's, I don't know, I don't wanna spend more money than we have to on it, you know, cause in the future, if we ever get city water down there, like, this thing's gonna be totally worthless.
Correct.
You'll be dead.
Well,
He's still hopeful, Jack.
I'm
Don't
still
wreck
hopeful,
it.
like, well, I don't care where it comes, hopefully we generate our own.
Your
someday.
house?
Yeah.
No, the town hall.
No, but we
I
don't,
think
from
the
your
other-
house.
Oh, we could take it from my house. My
From
lot-
your house would solve a lot of problems.
Yes,
You have
we
a good
would.
well.
Yes, I do. But,
The other potential long-term benefit of taking this route is that if the well clears up, which is possible, then we are no longer looking at the cost of ongoing hauling salt water effluent, like we can get rid of the RO system altogether. There is that potential.
So if we go with that option 2 or 3, we don't need extra Chevalier work.
Chevalier is still involved to some degree to plummet to the new system. I think there's a quote in there for 5,400. I don't have that number right in front of me.
That's correct, yes, it is.
Okay. So that they are involved to some degree, but that's to get it from the current RO water room outside into the new system.
And what we talked this out, extensively, but option 3 is problematic in that we don't really have an estimate for plumbing or the electrical. In this case, if we were to do it entirely ourselves, which we haven't done any of the work ourselves on site, I'm hesitant to do that because if we did something in that area and then something went wrong, there's a ton of finger pointing at that point. The town was in there, they probably screwed something up. And if we do that, and we do have to go out to bid for electrical and plumbing, I don't know that we're gonna get a value price at this point.
You go out anyway, don't you?
We're not gonna go out to, we had no intention to go out to bid if we're just utilizing the subs that were already there. They already have a relationship with DEW, and DEW is willing to oversee that.
You ain't gonna get anybody down there, electrical or plumbing, that's gonna be
That's my concern.
everybody's pretty busy right now, so it's.
But I mean, what you're saying is if Alan and the boys do it, these guys won't work with them?
I'm not sure if they will. I haven't asked them. I know that DEW, for liability reasons, isn't gonna oversee it, so they're not gonna be there to work with them. They have contracts with them directly. We do not right now. That's just the way we set this whole bid up for this project. So it's not like I can say, hey, you're already here, we have an arrangement, we have a contract, can you just do 2 more hours worth of work for us? I think they do it, and they will do it for DEW on our behalf, but we don't have a contract with them directly. I don't think we're gonna get it that inexpensive, and for the cost difference, I'm concerned we might even go over, the delta here, which if we do it ourselves, it might be 25, and option 2 is 36.7, call it 38. 37 if you want.
I think the other major concern is that they would put us at the absolute bottom of their list, because a contract for $2,500 is not going to bump us to any sort of importance in their level of contracting in this day and age. Whereas with DEW, they have an established relationship, so they would make accommodations.
Yeah, they would make time for them for that.
Plus, we have to really add in the labor of Alan and the
But,
DPW guys anyway.
so going back to what you said, Brian, about option 4 that's not on here, about trucking the water in.
Yeah, man, if it's, we use
I mean,
80 gallons
is
a
that-
day,
Can it not be done, or could it be done? But then all this goes away and you just bring in water. I don't know what to do with the RO that we don't need, but I don't know. It seems like this is, you still gotta deal with bringing water somewhere, and why not just bring clean water on the site? It's easy, to me, it's easier to bring clean water on the site if you can store it, whatever, I don't know about that, than it is to handle a pollutant after.
I mean, if the tank is, how big was this tank, 1,200 or 1,500?
1,000.
And we're using, you said, roughly 80 gallons a day, I mean, that's
I
a
can't,
week and a
I
half.
can't see that building's gonna use more than 80 gallons a day. I mean, I don't know if the backwashes are old or not, but the backwash for that carbon filter is at least 60 gallons, if not 120. And that's probably gonna happen every 2-3 days, I would guess, I don't know, something like
Well,
that.
according to whatever I was reading, there, I mean, you got a chlorinator and all that stuff.
Well, that's for the sulfur that's there.
Right, but I mean,
But you could get rid of that.
not necessarily if you're bringing in water from a municipality. Somebody like Wright's or Dragons brings in 3,000 gallons.
Yeah, they dump 3,000 gallons. And the well cleans up, if it does, you stop using it.
It's about $600 a truckload of water. And then you need a 3,000 gallon tank to hold that water, so where do we put that tank?
Behind the dumpster. But it's green.
But also, I think you'd have to chlorinate it, cause that water, I don't think you're gonna use 80 gallons a day. I think you're only gonna have 35 or 40 gallons, so that water's sitting there, it's gonna turn stagnant. So you're gonna have to chlorinate it, even though if it is municipal water. I think
Our usage is double the 80. It's more like 140 to 160. given the number of offices and people that we have working in there.
And our big select board meetings twice a month.
Because-
And you would, by state regs, you would have to chlorinate it. So some of those instruments in the RO room wouldn't be alleviated.
I just think the option going with the RO and the above ground tank, if you did the math, it works out to be maybe $550 a year. You take that $550 a year and divide that into 103,000, you're looking at, what, 200 years? 200 years or 228 years, hopefully by then we have municipal water.
Maybe.
So, I mean, cost-wise, it doesn't cost that much to truck it away.
Fighting the city with spaceships.
You might.
Well, what do you think, fellers?
So I don't see on here where you're looking for a motion.
Well, I mean, we
Or
do
did
need
you?
some direction, so yeah,
I think we need to get her done.
Well, I
Screwing around long enough.
Yep, there you go. So we'll just start around the room. What do you wanna go? Or did somebody wanna make a motion? I'll make a, well, I can't. I'm gonna make a motion. Or if nobody wants to, we'll bring it up next meeting, I guess. I don't really wanna do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's no more information to get, right? This is,
This is as much information as we have at this point.
So just let me be clear, if we end up with, option 2, we still add, how much for the arrow?
yeah, what was the?
I thought it was
what
like
the total would be?
$17,000.
We'll be roughly around the 60 with option 2. I mean, it could be a little under,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it won't.
It's basically where we were before, what you're saying. Well, I'll make a motion that we recommend or go with, whatever the word is here. We go with option 2 as presented on this form.
Are we gonna discuss that, or are we just?
So we're gonna discuss that after somebody
You
seconded
got a second?
it.
I'd rather you do.
I'll second it this time. So we can discuss it.
Okay, any further discussion?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I still wonder about, have we looked at all the options, and I understand what you're saying about it being, this could be the cheapest way out. But to me, it seems a little bit backwards to worry about hauling pollution off the site when you can just bring clean water on the site. To me, it just seems, I'm not sure how that costs. If Wrights bring a load of water at $600 and 3,000 gallons of water will last a long time at 80 gallons a day. Then you treat it and I just wonder about the cost overruns with this thing again and where we're gonna be. And now we have to haul the water off. Is the town hall gonna close when you can't get the water out of the tank, or is it just gonna overflow? You know, who knows? I mean, to me, it's like another maintenance thing. And with the now you got an RO you're taking care of, you gotta take care of all this. It's a
Are we-
mess.
Are we too far down the rabbit hole to reconsider?
Well, we're
Is that
never
what
too far down the
we're
rabbit
talking?
hole.
Well, I mean, it's
Just money.
I mean-
6 months. Is it,
Time and money. And time is money. I understand that.
No, I agree. It's a good point. I mean, I think from the last meeting when we talked about it, I wasn't jumping up and down about the RO, and now we're kinda, not to say we have a few options, but
So throw a number at you. Let's say you did the water thing. Your 3,000 gallons only gonna last about a month. So you're looking at $7,200 a year you're spending on water. That's before chlorinating it and putting it through the town hall. So within 10 years, you're at $70,000 plus
Water.
in water.
I got a
So
fire.
If you're looking at it as a business point of view, I'd go the other route myself.
And
I
that's
ain't saying,
also,
I'm not saying it's the greatest idea, I'm just saying, the hands that you're given, the cards you're given, you gotta go with the best option. And from a financial point of view.
I think we would also have to do research into requirements for permitting if we were doing an in-ground tank for, public drinking water.
correct.
Well, that's my only, I guess I'm a little bit, no, I'm just trying, I'm a little bit, I can't, I have a hard time wrapping my head around why it's better to produce a pollutant and deal with it than it is to just bring clean water on the site, given the fact that if we had a choice to do one or the other, environmentally, which we have to deal with it. And I get it from a cost perspective, but I'm not convinced that these numbers don't change. They've changed from because we sat here at the other meeting and every time we brought up the well, the numbers on the well went up and the numbers on this system were like 60,000, pretty good estimate for the other. Now we're up to 103, we're up to, actually up to 120 on what we discussed that night, double. And still don't have clean water. So if we do the tank, it's fine to do the tank, but it's still not a good solution to the problem, in my opinion. And it may be the least cost, given our options, but it just seems hard to
Put your mind
around why we're gonna make a mess and then clean the mess up instead of just bringing in clean water. It's kind of, I mean, not pretend to be overly sophisticated, it's just seems like we're making more work.
But you don't know how much that water option's gonna take, cause at this point it's a conceptual idea, so the water option, if we were to start down that road, would take probably 4 to 6 weeks to formulate a plan, get prices on it, and then get permitting. So
If you need it, right?
we're gonna probably need permitting if we're gonna have, they already told us that they treat this building, very differently, than you do your house, right? It's a public water supply, 'cause it's a building, public building. And then we would have to probably, I don't know how long that permit takes, it's an amendment, Emily and I talked about it, but, and then there's the cost of like another 2 months delay, because we're gonna start heating a building we're not using, and we wouldn't be out of this building. So it's a bit of a crunch. Every month that we delay this project is gonna start to cost us exponentially more money, because we're paying for internet here, we're paying for internet there, we're gonna start paying for heat and cooling there, and the same here, so.
We don't have, do we have a ship date on the RO yet? I thought somebody said we don't have a date.
We have a date where they said it would arrive. I thought it had been shipped, I just don't have the date on me right now.
Okay.
We talk about it every week when we have our 4-hour meetings, but I don't remember that date. We ordered it shortly after our last meeting, so I think mid-April was at the latest when we ordered it, and they said it was about 5 weeks. So that's why I'm thinking anytime in the next week or two, we should get that unit in.
Yeah,
but
who ordered it, Chevalier?
Chevalier ordered it, he said it comes from California. So
I guess the other piece to it, Alan made a good point, and I suppose over the next 10 years, the cost of shipping water in is gonna continue to rise, I would think too, right?
So the cost of RO parts are gonna continue to
Yeah,
rise too,
that's,
like,
well, that's true.
that's,
No, I'm just looking at this piece here, hopefully this is a pay option to be done
you
for.
buy it once, and then a few years later, you buy it again. and then-
Yeah.
That's about it, right?
Just wish that well worked. I mean, would've been nice, good clean water.
So when is, So I guess DEW's out of there real soon. Like they're out of, so that cost.
Last Friday. There's somebody there finishing up some of the punch list items that they can finish up. His name's Mark French. But Jason, who was there every day, left last week. He's coming back to coordinate, you know, the installation of the RO, the punch list items that he's responsible for.
That said, the quote for 36,000 could drop because they're timing that for the same time frame that they're installing the RO, so there will be overlap. But we just wanted to at least show the full cost to make sure we were protected on that aspect of it.
So I guess my question is are we doing due diligence to the town by not looking at bringing clean water in? Or your committee has looked at it and decided that that's not a viable option and presented these three options instead? So I'm not so inclined to be super time sensitive at this point. If it takes an extra couple weeks to get something done, then I don't wanna feel the pressure of things backing up outside of our select board meeting. It's our job to make the best decisions that we can, and if things are brought to us and they need a rush decision, then that's a problem that we've gotta deal with outside of this meeting. And so I don't actually, if this is the best decision that we can make, then we make it. But I would like to see for the townspeople, if bringing clean water in is even viable. And the only reason why I bring that up is because we're hauling it out.
No, it makes sense.
If we're hauling it out,
No,
what?
I totally
what-
agree.
And the stuff we're hauling out is a pollutant that's gotta be dealt with. And, I mean, not in my world, but in the world, it's pollutant. So,
Alan, where were we, you're gonna bring it to the city wastewater plant? Is that
Mhm.
what the number was based on?
It's coming out of the ground. You keep saying it's a pollutant. We were originally gonna put it in the ground. The state allowed that, so they're not considering it a pollutant. But I just can't.
but why can't we put it in the wetland? I mean, it's wet already, why don't we just make it wetter? I don't have a problem with that personally,
That's,
but somebody won't let that happen.
So if we do go with the,
But
if
somebody
we go with the disposal field route, we would have to get a wetland permit, which takes 3 to 6 months to actually get. And we'd be proposing it to put it in a buffer, so the state would probably not actually approve that permit.
Well, is it,
I've said, I've said.
yeah,
what
I know,
have to
Jeff,
say.
you bring up good points, like, you know, it kind of feels like back to where we were a couple weeks ago, where we make a decision and then we're back, you know, making another decision back in the wall type thing. Like, I know we have some options, I understand that, but, you know, if we can bring water in, you know, do we just give this to the next meeting and see if we can come up with some rough numbers of what option four?
Well, how long would it take to get rough numbers? Phone calling around?
Yeah, well, nobody moved, nothing
Nobody
happens
moves very
quick.
fast, no, this took us probably the better part of a month, I know, seems to.
But like, if there's something like, if, I imagine somewheres in the United States, like somebody hauls water to their facility because of X, Y, Z.
We got heard the order station here in Highgate
Has
across
it.
from St. Armand does this, yeah.
I'm just concerned, we almost ran out of drinking water here, so we're gonna be relying on water coming in when we almost had to bring our own water in to work, but, we can do that, but then we're gonna be just as reliant on getting fresh water in a timely manner and being able to make sure that system works. But anyway, so what you're proposing is getting prices for paying for water to come in to supply the town hall.
Yeah, 'cause then we wouldn't have to, I mean, I think it does make some sense, I wish. I don't know
Just
if
as
that's
an
for
option,
tonight.
just like, at least see that. Again, only because we're hauling anyway.
Right.
We're not gonna be hauling the water though. We're gonna be asking another contractor to haul the water and hope that they come regularly. I mean, it was frustrating that we couldn't even get bottled water. Like, it just was ridiculous, cause they don't have the help. So I'm concerned that we're gonna be relying on that. To me, it's easier to get rid of an effluent than it is to get clean water in and hope that they're reliable, because I thought our bottled water people were reliable, but they're like, we can't get anybody, we got one guy for the whole state. It concerns me a lot, but, I'll do whatever you guys want us to do. I just don't know if we will have a viable option 4 and have the budgets into, well, it's actually 3 weeks. Because people are just, even getting these guys to give us numbers was somewhat challenging. They're all real busy, as you know.
I think we would also need clear direction on if it's an above ground tank or a below ground tank that we're looking for, because that will greatly change the scope.
I guess that's up to the project team where we can fit, like, I'm not on the project team, so I don't know where it would fit or where it wouldn't fit, but. Like, seeing how that's an option, to bring your own bring water in instead of, we do have some of the infrastructure there, like.
I don't know.
Like, so let's move this forward, I'm gonna call for a vote on the last motion. All in favor? Anybody, nay? So, I guess let's move forward with possible bringing our own water.
Okay.
Just see what it looks like, or, I mean, that's
Unless,
just-
do you need a motion for that too, anybody, so we can do that?
No.
You don't really need a motion for that, right?
Okay. The next item is Northwest Vermont Communications District. Oh, he might have left the meeting. We lost him. That's unfortunate. Well, Sean will be back another time. Sorry, Sean. Sean Keogh has been running the Communication Union District, and he was gonna provide just a brief update of what they've been doing, on the work recently. So I got nothing else on that one, I guess, another day. The hazard mitigation plan, however, is our next item. I have some talking points from Sean. I sent those in an email. I know they were late. I didn't get them from Sean myself until recently. It's on the desk in front of you. The new updated hazard mitigation plan, largely the one in your packets is accurate. Sean just updated it with a new, cover page, second page in where you sign, he updated the dates. But I wanted to just go over a couple things. Tonight, we're not actually asking you to make a motion. Sean reminded me that with FEMA, it's very specific. First, we are going to get public comment, so that's what tonight's about. The town plan, the town hazard mitigation plan is a plan that allows us to plan for large events. It allows FEMA mitigation planning guidance, and we're doing this to meet federal and state guidelines, requirements actually, with flood to try to encourage flood resilient communities, build resilient infrastructure, and provide some sort of flood mitigation assistance. What that relates to in English for a lot of us is that having a plan like this also ensures that we meet the Vermont Emergency Relief Assistance Fund requirement, which translates into the federal government providing a larger portion of grant money. And our portion, our local match being smaller. That's the big draw to actually do these plans. at a point in the future, if there's nothing egregious in here, this goes to the state, they approve it, and as in the email that I sent you today, it explains the process, the next few phases, when they send it back to the select board and say, yeah, we're good with it. You guys are still good with that plan, you can approve it, and then it becomes final at that point, you have to sign a resolution. I don't know if you wanna get into all the weeds, it's,
Yeah, I was gonna mention, when I looked at the title, I wasn't quite sure, but it was more interesting than I thought it might be.
oh, yeah, it is a little bit
I
more.
would say there was a number of things that, they're certainly not critical to what we need to send in, but a lot of things that, things I was able to pick up pretty easy that were outdated, like census data from 2010.
I have that, and I actually already sent him an email.
Okay,
Yeah.
police services are listed as the city.
Oh, okay, yep, police services.
Nearest nuclear power plant active is Vernon, Vermont, which has been shut down. Snowfall tables were, I Googled them real quick and I got the same charts that came up, but they're updated with some.
Okay, yep.
So, just stuff like that, the rest of it was. from
The
what I
first
could
page-
try to find.
The first page reference has an old, person, like Mara, our old planner, said that's gotta be updated.
Yep.
The grand list amount wasn't accurate, it was old.
Just all that stuff just needs to be
Yep.
updated, but I think the crux of it was good. Interesting to go down and just and actually putting numbers to the likelihood of different events was kind of interesting.
Mhm. So Sean says, I mean, this is, unfortunately, this is largely bureaucratic, not a lot of people read it. It's important
they
that it
should.
be accurate, but they
Yeah.
should, because it's where we talk about the flooding from 2011, and, you know, that we've considered large events. Mostly in Vermont, we have weather events, we don't thankfully have tornadoes and hurricanes very often, but, it's just where a community like Bob Cross, Alan, and I, met with Sean and talked about macro things, like what are the big hazards we're looking to mitigate,
What
literally.
it, and I'm looking at like some of the numbers, and again, just for, for me to understand. So it's got like, potential cost if we had a tornado of $12 million. Would this document be, like, say a tornado came through and created a lot of damage, would this document be referenced on what the federal government might give us for money to help correct
No,
it?
they would
Because-
probably just look at a checklist and ask if we had a hazard mitigation plan.
So that
It's
the
not used-
values aren't as important.
Correct. It's not used to directly correlate to an actual, need for assistance. And then the actual rational follow-up would be, then why do we have to do it? But we do have to do it. Just because we're checking off a box that the federal government says you're paying attention and routinely
So like,
going through it.
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
So I'm just looking at mitigation strategy, local hazard mitigation goals, like this is town plan adopted August 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 5, expand or construct a water supply, sewage disposal, like some of these items that are on here, is this just like a boilerplate kind of a, like, when have we done any of that, like?
It's things previous boards have discussed.
Is that, like, where do they come up, like, so are we obligated to ensure we're working on these items?
Nope.
Or what, so, I
It's
guess I
just-
don't really understand it, like, you know, why have mitigation goals when we're not working on them? Like, or, what's the I don't really understand it. Right,
The requirement is to have one. These come from a template Sean has used with probably about 8 other communities in the county. There is a template that FEMA and the federal government want us to use. Those
Like-
were just inputted as they were discussed at one
Yeah.
point. I mean, there were things like, I can't remember, some part of French Hill, I think, was on there. There were some projects that were in there, that we'd already done, so we removed them. It's a guideline, it's a
I guess it's a
planning, it's a
plan,
planning
it's a
tool that's really
planning,
vague and can be changed.
I'm just wondering, you know,
Yeah.
can they hold their feet to the fire with any of this, like, not really?
They don't know. But they do hold your feet to the fire if we don't have one and it's not approved and we have a FEMA event and we go to ask what our local match is. If we don't have one and one's not even in process at the state, then we pay the larger amount for local matches. They're pretty clear about that. Which is why
You don't
even,
really care whether you got one or not, but you gotta have one.
It's just something you have to do.
yeah, it's something they're like, you need to do it or you pay more.
Someone at some point did put some work into this.
There's a lot in here, it's very
There's a
detailed.
lot.
Yeah, Sean, I mean, we did actually, I didn't write the first one, but Alan
I wish he was here, cause it happened, like, I just don't understand, like, you put some of the stuff in here and we're signing it as we adopt it.
We ain't gonna
Like,
get
You
it
don't-
tonight.
You're not signing or adopting anything tonight? The
Well, I
change-
know, but eventually, right?
You will, yes.
But like,
You can have them down to.
There's
And
stuff in
Sean
here
will be
that-
here at a future
yeah, well,
meeting.
okay, let's,
He had a funeral and a family event that
yeah,
pulled him out of
it's
town
nothing
today,
new.
but at this point, they just wanna know if you're okay with it enough to send it to the state, let them gnaw on it for a little bit, and then send it back to us.
Everybody good? Yeah. Send it. Do we need a motion? No.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
I think it's highlighted.
Oh, wait, it says please consider making a motion.
I put that in there, but Sean
you're
reminded
good?
me in his
Okay.
notes that I did not have to,
Okay,
did not want you to do that. I'm amending my request.
okay, perfect.
So, on to the last, or one of the last ones, the, purchasing policy. Department heads did read through this, there's some feedback there, you'll see in the notes. I'm not, like I put in my notes, I don't think that every contract needs to come to the select board, I mean, that's why you have a town manager form of government at this point, because you can't necessarily run business very well if every single contract and decision comes to you, that's just not the effective way to do it. But
To do it that way.
you did, and if one or two of you wanna come in every week for 40 hours, you can, but I don't think, you want to. So larger things maybe, I just threw a number in there, but if you wanna say, hey, look, for X amount,
What's
I-
your number you have?
I put in 100,000. You can't buy plow trucks or fire trucks, I mean, without going over that amount, sadly. I used to buy a lot more, but right now, that's just a suggestion, this isn't under any time constraints, but, you know, we did wanna get a couple policies moving forward, changed.
Anybody got any questions for Carrie on this? If not, I'm gonna start. Okay, so, are you ready? You good? Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay, so under competitive pricing, item number 2, I'm just trying to read the edited version. So, $0 to $5,000, no bid required. Is that what that's gonna be?
Yeah,
There's 3 conflicts, right?
That section got kind of messy.
Yep.
If you look at the final version that's in the blue folder, it's actually
Oh,
$0 to $5,000.
okay, that's, well, yeah, that's what I.
Yeah.
It's funny, I read this first, but.
There were a lot of comments that
So-
were added, so it
Yeah.
got kind
So
of
2
messy.
and, 2 and 3 are combined as just number 2. in
well, I
the
think
final
1 and
one.
2 are combined.
One's by itself still, and then I think it's 2
I
and
know, it
3.
should have been combined though, I think. The track changes, like Jen said, there was quite a few in there.
So bottom line, 0 to 5,000, verbal quotes are obtained. 5 to 7,500, there's written that are
Correct.
obtained from 3.
Correct.
That was the edit.
And then over 75,
Okay, I see.
so just so I got that, so at over 75, then the town manager kinda oversees it, is that right?
Bid process is followed, right? Meaning all of the above.
Back up. That's the end of
So when do we go through like how do we request either just like a quote or we request a bid? Like, what's the defining line when we ask for one?
Whether we ask for a quote versus a
Or
bid.
like a sealed bid? Like, what's the, you know what I mean? Like, just to say if, do we usually just ask for sealed bids if somebody's buying from us, not necessarily we're purchasing?
Okay.
I've always gone with the bid.
Well,
for
just
like
as long as we
equipment
get our 3 quotes, right?
Yeah, I think
But
that's,
still, like, yeah, I guess,
It was
because
like-
there's sealed bids, and you know, the bid opening, blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah, but I think that's typically just for when we're trying to get rid of a piece of equipment.
correct.
So why does it kinda live in our,
I think we used to do a lot more, so now everyone submits like engineers submit their RFP bids like electronically.
yeah,
We give the option for them to bring us an envelope. I think
We do.
no one really brings up the envelopes anymore, they just email them to you, so it's hard to have like a seal. I think in the old days, people wanted you to keep it sealed, so you weren't telling your favorite engineering firm, come in $500 less than this one, you know, that one came in
Who would
10.
do that?
No, but you know what I mean, I think that was
there's
the,
laws against it, but sadly
Right.
not.
but I
Right.
think
It's a
now,
holdover.
everyone just kinda, like me, whenever I set a time, it's usually like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I don't even open until the next day, like I just make sure we got a couple bids in, and then I sit down with all the emails and
Opening at that
open them
time.
up at that point in an email form, but they're not.
I'm just wondering.
Right. But I think 15 years ago, everyone probably sent their bids in and
Right,
just,
right,
you left them in an envelope, you opened them.
We did, well, we did that with paving.
The very first year I worked here, it was
The
very
good old
confusing,
days.
because everyone opened it up and no one knew how to read it.
Correct.
So if you read my bid form, it says I will take all bids, put them in a spreadsheet, or I only had 2 bids this year, so I just gave you each the bid. Just makes it cleaner for you guys to see.
That's all the questions I had. Anybody else have more? The only one thing was the 100,000. That was big stuff. Carrie, what was that 100,000 on? What was-
Well,
I know you just said it was just we can up it, lower it, whatever, but what was that for?
well, I thought one of the department heads had asked for all bids to be, I don't see it in this note, but all bids to go to the select board to be open. And
Oh,
I
okay.
don't really think that it needs to be that expansive. I think it should be, all right, maybe all bids over 100,000, or, and I frankly just put it in there as a suggestion to see what you guys were feeling.
I'm wondering if that comment was made for bids on us, like, getting rid of equipment, not necessarily purchasing equipment, cause nobody's gonna send us a sealed bid for a Ford truck. Does Bocan or nobody
Yeah.
sends us a sealed bid, unless we
No,
requested it.
no.
They just quote it, right?
They just give you a quote,
Yeah.
like all the numbers are, it's pretty much national advertised pricing anyway, so it's like.
Well, we get municipal discounts, so the pricing is different.
Well, different from when I buy it, but every
Every
you should get a
municipal should get
municipal
the same
district from
price.
everything.
Yes.
Correct.
So that's why I'm
Yep.
just wondering, but that's covered in our disposal of assets
It is,
policy,
it
right?
is.
So I don't think I'm really concerned about that, so
Okay.
the 100,000 would be, go back to that, would be just for, like, what? But did you say we have to set a level?
No, you do not.
It's on number 3, on page 6, number 3 of the red mark one.
Bid opening.
Page 6.
So that's the bid, but yeah, so we covered that in the
That's
disposal
true.
of assets. I think
Yep.
that's where the confusion is. This is solely for purchasing.
Right.
And the disposal of assets would be if somebody's selling a fire truck
Yeah.
and wants it, and get multiple bids or one bid of whoever.
It still says sealed, but, I mean, in public bid opening, you know, just means there's a witness, could be in the manager's office. You know, Jen takes down a list, creates an apparent bidder list, notifies the bidders who's the apparent low bidder, and you investigate to make sure they comply with the bid, that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be in a publicly warned meeting, it just has to be open publicly, not in somebody's office with the door closed.
So it said something about like one witness, is that just one person or somebody with a witness?
Just a witness, like Jen or myself, or Alan
Right.
came over and it was the two of us, we're sitting
So
there.
there's two of these?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's two of us, so there's no.
Person opening plus the witness.
Yeah,
to go
exactly.
in.
Doesn't, anybody, could be
But I'm
anyone.
just wondering, how does that fit in, like, if, do we ever get sealed bids for anything anymore we purchase?
Well, Wickham's bid today was sealed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, occasionally it happens, yes.
Well, when
Okay,
we
so
do
I
a
guess-
structure, those come all sealed.
Okay, so I guess we still gotta have a spot in there to say how we're gonna deal with sealed bids. I would think it.
We could eliminate the word sealed, I mean, if someone does it, we can just open it.
Right.
Because we don't treat it any differently,
Correct.
whether it's sealed or not.
So what's
I'm
the-
just saying, if we're updating our policies, let's just update them and get rid of the stuff we don't really need. I guess.
Yep.
Take out seal.
Correct, that word, the one word.
I don't-
Easy.
Harry, I was looking at the, not the red pen one, but the other one, page 4. So I'll make sure I got it straight here. On number 4, under B.
Under which, B is in boy, yeah?
Yeah, competitive pricing, number 4. What is it we're saying there exactly? I'm having a hard time following. 7,500 greater than something. Bid shall be obtained unless waived by the town manager. Are we talking about amounts more than 7,500 or less than? Because it's unclear with the greater than sign after the number. Just trying to figure out what we're trying to say there.
That's supposed to mean greater than, and I haven't been in school in like 30 years, so
Yeah, we
tell me
just-
what I'm supposed to
Yeah,
put there.
the greater than
I'm
sign.
just gonna be honest about
first.
it.
Put the greater than sign first.
Before the 7,500?
Yeah, 'cause it's a number greater
Flip it the other
than
direction.
7,500.
And
That's why I'm
eliminate-
trying to understand.
Okay,
It looks
no.
like
You
we're-
just put one of them little marks. This way is more, that way
It's
is.
the Pac-Man, you can remember it that way.
You guys
Okay.
go to school, huh?
Not for a few decades.
But-
During the day.
But we're saying here though, that just anything above 7,500.
Yes.
We, bid shall be obtained unless waived.
You have to get a bid.
Is that different than number 3?
Guess it's not.
That's why I'm just confused. We need both or.
So that's very true. We could combine,
Who's saying?
3 and 4 and say written bids, because,
Or email bids. Electronic.
correct.
Oh, it's less than 75,000, not greater, or 7,500.
That's why I'm asking.
Less
Yeah, I
than-
don't know. I'm
Less
right,
than
'cause-
7,500, bid shall be obtained unless waived by the town manager. So anything over 75, so if it's 7501, there's no, you've gotta get a bid.
Correct.
Okay, that's what it's saying.
Right,
Or we
that's-
can add a number, yeah, whatever, okay, just so it's clear, I mean.
So you gotta put a less than 7,500.
Little pointy thing that goes the other
So
way.
just take it and put it on the other side.
Or just write it in words, amounts less than 7,500, just so it's clear, amounts greater than 7,500. There's no waiver, is what you're saying,
Yes.
right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is, under section A,
But I mean, back to your earlier, 3 and 4 could be combined, just to read, all bids above 5,000 require electronic or written bid quotations from at least 3 vendors.
And amounts less than 7,500 can be waived per.
So like what
section.
if it ends up like the paving with only 2 vendors?
Then you have written proof that you went out to bid and requested it,
Yeah.
and,
And you got 2.
and you got 2.
I thought there was something in here that says that.
At UVM, they make you redo it.
They do, they get another one?
Well, and then you get 2 again, and then
I mean, it's like fire trucks, you get 2. Maybe sometimes you just get 1.
so there's no language in here about using the local vendor? Like, I saw the, in the warrants where we use sticks and stuff all weekend, you know, like, just,
I
like
think there
leaning
was something
toward.
in here, right?
Yeah, there is.
I thought there was, and then now I can't see it.
Yeah, it would look like it crossed out Town of St. Albans and replaced it with Franklin.
Oh.
I did, yep.
Okay, is that what, that's probably what it is.
Because it was, commented on that would be hard to,
Some
Yeah.
things we couldn't get up here.
No, I understand that, that's fine, I just,
It was towards the end, I believe.
Yeah, definitely seen that, Jeff.
I mean, it looks like we're doing that, so I was just wondering if it was
Yeah.
formalized in the document.
It's like page 2 on the red one. Right at
On the
top,
red one?
In the introduction, I think.
yep. It is
I thought
there.
I saw it. Yeah. Well, that's fine.
I'm good, I think.
Jack, any further questions?
No.
Jeff?
Good to me.
No, good.
Jerry, need a more? No, we don't, we just gotta sign it. Well, you're gonna make modifications?
Yeah, I'm gonna change it.
Yeah, and we
so-
can just sign it next time.
Yep.
Okay, so it's off that list, okay. Okay, fun one.
Yeah, now.
And next to the last one is the new town bylaws, so, little light reading. They spent a lot of time on it, and, at this point, we're asking you to look at it because the planning commission has just begun their hearing process. So it'd be really helpful if you found something you would like to address, or you had questions to do it now, as opposed to when they got through their hearing process and then sent it to the select board in about a month. When you'll have more opportunity to comment, and so will the public, but it's very efficient if you get it to the planning commission now. Because if you change it at your point, then it has to go back to the very beginning and we start the 2-month process over again. So there's a link to it. If you want a paper copy, let Jen know. Corey's here. he
It'll
helped
look a
him.
lot different, we reformatted it, so it's easier to read, so it looks like a lot more changes, but we have a summary of the changes here.
So, what, and I know, it's hard for me when I get this red pen and then I gotta go online with 2 devices and try to,
That's
you know.
why you gotta have this.
I know, but you don't have a red copy or an
No.
edited
Then
copy.
my
like-
life is simple.
Like, we need an
Looks
edited
good.
copy
It'll look completely edited, cause we reformatted like.
today.
Yeah, like
Okay.
it'll look,
Thank you.
it'll look completely different, but I can get you, we'll get you something that can read easier.
Well,
That's the
as
way.
long as you show me, you know, because I gotta look and then I look on the compressed list or whatever, summarized list, and then I look at that, and then I go on my phone, and then I'm back over here, like, you know, back and forth. So, just so,
Yeah, I'll
Are
try
you
to,
ready?
we just read, cause the way it was edited last time was we felt was more confusing for people to read, where this one is gonna have like section 1, subsection, you know, little 1, you know what I mean, like it actually will
Okay.
flow, and, you know, we did a lot of just grammatical editing, when we cite state statute, they cited it the wrong way, most of them, where we fixed all of them, so it's the correct way, and we made sure the statutes actually were the correct statutes we were citing, cause there was a few that we weren't citing, and then the biggest policy piece was the stormwater stuff coming in. So Emily going over that in detail would probably be the best, and then the other differences really were that childcare intern bylaw, we made it permanent, which basically allows a childcare center in every single one of our zoning blocks, just because, you know, if someone wants to start a childcare center, we need them, you know, we're not gonna fight them. And then we did, the only kind of other thing we addressed, that was big, was where we would allow retail, cannabis after the vote that the voters had in March. Obviously, there's a process to get licensed at the state and all that piece, but where we would allow it, basically, we allowed it in our commercial and industrial area. So basically, it'd be the pink area up there, you'd see.
The
So,
green
like,
area is where they grow it, right?
they can grow it wherever they want.
Yeah,
Well, some people can, some can't, depending on what kind of cultivation you're doing. But yeah, there's but we'll take you through a lot of them. There's still gonna be another couple of other changes were required by state statute, like the state changed the accessory dwelling unit, so we just caught up with the state laws on that. There'll be more changes coming. We have that bylaw modernization grant, which will take another year or two for regional plan to go through, but the state just passed legislation increasing density again. They're really trying to get people to build up where there's public infrastructure, so you can conserve land but still get the housing you need at an affordable rate and not add more infrastructure. You know, you can build 6 homes on a road versus 2, it's theoretically cheaper.
So the version that's on the website is marked up or not marked up?
I don't know which one's on the website, I wasn't in one, the one that
It's
could be
not
almost-
marked up on
it
the
could
one
be
that
almost
says,
draft.
I don't think it says draft, but if you scroll down, if you go to the homepage and you scroll down,
You can find one?
you can find, it's, on here it is.
I'll send an email
PC
tomorrow with
version.
both copies so folks can see it, and then we can print them out as well.
So I have one question, and Corey, you might be able to answer it better, so, section 9.4.2, it's under the stormwater section. Says the combination of new impervious surface area created and the redevelopment or substantial reconstruction of existing impervious surfaces is less than 5,000 square feet, then the application is exempt from requirements in this section 9.4. So if I have an acre lot and I do a driveway that's 100 feet by 60 feet, that would require stormwater approval or whatever you call it, right? Because it's 6,000 square feet. If I have a 20-acre lot and I do a road that's, 200 by 20 feet, that's 40,000, whatever it is. So, like, that triggers it also. But how does that work? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand the square footage numbers, because if I have a big lot and I'm only have so much impervious per acre, why
So
do I get impacted?
I'll ask Emily for a detailed write-up on that for you guys and provide it. I do know the state's at 3 acre stormwater now, but eventually it's gonna go to half acre. So any lot, when you hit that kind of trigger, that half acre of impervious, you would, everyone's gonna end up with stormwater stuff in the next 30 or 40 years. It's, so it's just,
It's so stupid.
I don't know if it was her trying to get ahead, I don't remember, but I'll get an answer for you, to get for sure, but it's not just a percentage of lot, it's they're cranking down real hard on stormwater stuff. So I don't know if that helps or not.
I guess, but I just
I get your point, cause I always argue, it's like, if 60% of my lot is green space and I'm only using 40, but,
Yeah.
cause some municipalities do it as a percentage of the lot. But the state regulates it now by square footage.
Yeah, and so say if somebody comes and they need to have stormwater review to get a permit to put their road out for their house, what cost do they incur now? Like stormwater review, do they have to do this? Is there a bunch?
I think the goal is while we have someone like with an engineering background on staff, I think Emily's goal in talking to the planning commission is if she can help review stuff and point out issues before it goes to the state, it should save the developer time, because you go to the state, you put in your first application, it takes them 2-3 months to review it, they send back on the state, then you go back to an engineer. She took a 6-month process where if we had them review it with her, she could tell in 2 weeks, well, the state's probably gonna trip you up on here, here, and here, so if you want, before you send it into the state, a lot of these are state gonna be, a lot of the stormwater stuff's gonna be state permits, but if we can try to help them out before it goes off to the state, it actually might speed up the process. And,
So is this for residential also?
yeah, it's,
So right across, so there's gonna be another permit for somebody to,
not from us, the state.
oh, from the state, I know, but I thought it was, well, anyways.
I mean, right now, you only need it, I think it's 3 acre, 1 acre, I don't know the exact cutoff, but yeah, I mean, we're the 8th stormwater utility. In the next decade, there'll be 50 of them. I mean, Montpelier's looking at doing it, St. Johnsbury's called us, Virgins is looking at doing one, I'm surprised Swanton hasn't been tagged yet.
They don't, yeah, up in Fairfield, them guys up there, they can't believe that we have to pay. Said it's coming over the hill, boys.
They don't have stormwater up there,
Yeah.
it simply must be true.
Well, the legislature wanted farmers for pulling from sources, wanted that
Right.
permitting process, we beat that back this year, but here we are dealing with too much water, and then at the same time, legislature's now saying people are taking, so I mean, water is an issue.
I got a friend that's on the select board in Coventry. He asked me not long ago, we don't have zoning. Should we get it?
Albert doesn't have zoning.
No, well, little towns. don't.
Cambridge
Lo-
doesn't have zoning either.
Lowell doesn't have zoning. That's where they got all the wind towers.
So what happens when you leave a section like stormwater for residential out of your zoning laws? Do you still gotta go by
State law.
state law?
You have to meet state law, it's just we try to, I think our goal was not to be more in people's face, it was to try to help them solve the issue when they were coming to meet with us. So that they didn't get caught up in the state trap of, I mean, with my other hat on, how many phone calls I get from you and getting a wastewater permit, I mean, it just takes months and months and months, and, I remember last year with a construction project going on in town now, they were 7th in line, and I thought it would take like a week to get through 7 permit applications, ended up taking like 6 or 7 weeks, and that was with me and the engineer calling on a regular basis. So I think we're just trying, with the stormwater stuff, and it can be adjusted, I don't think anyone's married to language, is just trying, while we have the staff and expertise, like try to help people, if we review it and say, hey, the state's probably gonna throw a fit about X, Y, and Z, try to speed it up for them.
But you know how they work, see, they always wanna blame Act 250 and they wanna reform it. But after we get done with it, it goes everywhere else, and they wait till day 44, and then they go to the desk with the stack this high, take the one off the bottom, just so they give it inside their deadline, and the rest of you can go to hell.
That's Act 250,
No, that's after,
after 250.
Not Act 250.
it's after, they're always blaming Act 250.
All right.
The district environmental boards for holding up projects, but it's A&R, it's water division.
Oh, well,
Look at town hall, it need 5 permits.
Yeah,
When you think about it, from between ours, the states,
Act 250 didn't give you a hard time, did they?
No, do not.
Went through pretty fast.
I don't think we went through.
You know,
we have a good Act 250 board up here, not every place is the same.
Yeah.
What's called a get her done board.
Yeah.
So when is your first hearing for that?
Our meeting on the 24th, which we may.
May
we have to push-
24th,
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Can you send the select board members,
Yeah, and if
Meeting
more than
invite.
3 of you are gonna come, we'll have to warn it
warn it anyways?
anyway.
Yep.
Now, is this the bylaw meeting?
Yep.
At the planning commission level.
I'll stay over.
Yeah, warn it.
Cause if there's more than 3,
Yep, okay, we will.
I will be there.
Stay away.
Well, come on.
I've done that too many years.
but Carrie's right, if we can get the changes early in the process, then by the time it hits your desk officially, wrapped up.
So send questions if you get any more. Now, next week is the hearing.
And Emily will be there, and,
I don't know if Emily will be there. Is she gonna be there?
I'll have her be there
But we,
because of the changes.
okay.
And we'll have
Yes.
AJ there and, yeah, we have a good board too. We have, Sarah Hadd's the chair of our planning commission now. She was the head of zoning and planning in, Colchester, and she's the town manager of Fairfax now. But, so, we got a pretty good crew there.
Good for now?
I think, everybody good with that for now?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Yeah, sure.
The last item under my report is notices for Act 250. No motions requested on that. That's it.
Okay, next one's schedule, next meeting Monday, June sixth, and Wednesday, June 22nd, at 6:30.
But we just changed
We
that to
changed it to
5:30.
5 or 5:30? 5:30.
5:30.
5:30, okay. A little too early. Okay, anybody have any other business? We're not having an executive session now unless you guys need one. I don't need one. Okay, anybody wanna make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. 2 hours?
So who made the motion to adjourn? Jeff?
Yep.
Who seconded?
Uh,
Brian.
I think I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jen.
And it's,